Oh, good evening, everybody. Welcome to May's East Bay Charter Township Planning Commission meeting. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And can we do a roll call, please?
Gonzalez.
Here.
Wassam.
Present.
Edley.
Here.
Ferguson.
Here.
Richardson.
Here.
Walters.
Present.
And Leonard.
Here. Next up is review for conflict of interest. Does anybody have anything to declare? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on for approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda of Tuesday, May 6, 2025 for the East Bay Township Planning Commission.
Support.
Thank you. We have a motion by Mindy, supported by Rhonda, for approval of the agenda as presented. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Next up is public comment. Feel free, anybody who has anything to declare or talk about, come on up to the lectern. You got 3 minutes. Meeting minutes?
Yeah, that was the minutes.
3 minutes on a lot of topics tonight. My goodness.
Don't worry, lots of time.
Okay.
Oh, no, they haven't.
Good evening, Commissioners. Judy Nemitz, East Bay Township. Prior to the meeting, I did send you some information and hope you had a chance to look at the master plan and maps. It's been said that everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but not your own facts. Let me present the facts why temporary dwellings should not be permitted, and definitely not in the Lakes area based on our master plan and our maps. The LA district has the highest concentration of short-term rentals as compared to other districts. The LA district has the highest concentration of public parks available for recreation, to include an additional 528 acres added to the already 1,300 acres at Brown Bridge Quiet Area to include Spring Lake, which is one of our 16 lakes out there. In addition, the county will be taking over 200 acres of the old Camp Grolic on Rennie, Spider, and Bass Lakes, with camping to be open soon. The Lakes area has more state land bordering to the east that has camping by permit. The LA area has more public campgrounds bordering the area than any other district, with Arbutus Lake Campground, Camp Grolic Campground to be open on Rennie, Bass, and Spider, Ranch Rudolph, Timber Ridge, and Shex. The LA district has more septics and wells in a high concentrated area, not monitored for the health, safety, and welfare of our residents, with little to none wellhead protection of the drinking water. A septic is built for a 3-bedroom house, is not built for extended use in another temporary dwelling. The Lakes area has the highest concentration of oil and gas wells without wellhead protection of our drinking water. That means we have no protection from PFAS or PFOS testing done by the township. The LA district has the highest amount of wetlands and public trust water, containing the largest watershed available for our drinking water. Now we want to add temporary dwellings before we have a septic or a wellhead protection ordinance, or we have enforced our junk and blight ordinance. When is another use enough without enforcement? When, you guys, is enough enough in the Lakes area especially? Please protect all of our drinking water and natural resources in the Lakes area and not allow these inconsequential, senseless, unenforceable temporary dwelling ordinance. Please deny it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Judy.
Hello, my name's Larry Mudd. I'm a resident of East Bay Township, and I'm also a member of Protect Forest Lakes. I'm here to just remind you, this is also regarding the temporary dwelling units proposed zoning amendment that you're going to talk about later. There was a petition submitted it was in late 2024, that you should not permit temporary dwelling units in the Lakes Area District. And this was signed by 179 people. So just reminding you of that. And then the other thing just to bring up, a lot of people on Protect Forest Lakes, Claire did a wonderful job when they did the zoning, your most recent zoning rewrite. And and I know it took a long time, but they did workshops, and those were attended by a lot of people. There was good dialogue going back and forth. You know, a lot of times they were done during the day. They weren't done at 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. So we would say, if for some reason you feel like some action needs to happen with this temporary dwelling unit draft ordinance, please consider tabling it tonight and sending it to the workshop and do it in that process. I've worked in the real estate business for 40 years. I've seen how that workshops have been very successful in a lot of other communities. I applauded Claire in the way she handled moving that forward. So if for some reason something should happen, please consider tabling it and working and having it go through the workshop process. I think you'll be a lot happier, and most people will then have the ability to have input that way. Thank you.
Thanks, Larry.
Hi there, David Endicott. I'm an East Bay Township resident as well on Arbutus Lake 5. I want to speak about the TDU provisions as well. I'm against the proposed changes to the TDU provisions of the zoning ordinance. I'm concerned about how these changes will be enforced, especially the non-commercial provision. Not only is an enforcement plan missing, but so are the penalties for violating these proposed changes. Let's not kid ourselves regarding TDUs or tent camping. This has nothing to do whether or not families' children can pitch a tent in the backyard on a nice summer night. It has everything to do about property owners using these changes to skirt the STR ordinance to rent their land out for profit. Skirting the STR ordinance allows these owners to not be subject to the license limits. They also don't have to pay the annual $400 fee to East Bay Township. They also don't have to have a septic or well inspection. And as Judy pointed out, that is a particular concern because without doing these inspections, it puts all of East Bay Township at risk environmentally for overflowing septic tanks and fields. Opening up the existing TDU restrictions and East Bay Township, I believe, will enable a runaround of the STR limits and regulations that commercially minded property owners will freely exploit for profit because there's no way at present for East Bay Township to enforce the proposed changes. So please reject this, or as Larry said, put it under further review. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, David.
My name is Jeff Geiger. I'm an East Bay Township resident, Grand Traverse County for 45 years, 50 years, and East Bay for 30-some. We own acreage, over 10 acres in the lakes area. We do want the right to be able to utilize our property for people to camp there, friends, relatives. We don't do it commercially, never have. I understand they have a lot of valid points, RV septic tanks usually are not dumped in or hooked in anyone's residential septic tank because the chemicals they put in the RV tanks kill the bacteria in the home septic tanks. So people don't do that. If you own a home, you let somebody dump it, if you're not connected to the city, you're foolish to do that. But anyways, we do have property rights. It's a lot of land. And to pull out, like the lakes area, for instance, where we have 11 acres, one house, been there for 30 years, we should be able to park an RV, and have people go there and park. I do believe also the short term that you're allowing is going to have people pulling up in a week, approximately, or whatever they're there for, going and dump at one of the spots. So we have a lot of dump sites that people will go dump their RVs in. They'll dump both their black and gray water. All the other townships around us, the majority, have some provisions. We need some provisions here to protect our rights. And the way it's written now, nobody can tent camp. Nobody can spend the night in a camper van if they wanted to. Somebody comes up and drinks too much, they can't sleep in their RV in the driveway. It's kind of foolish. But anyway, it does need to be our right. I do agree with protecting it. We've got a lot of septics that are outdated. There's no ordinances for that. A lot of the things they've mentioned don't fall on deaf ears. I agree with a lot of that. But we can't take all the rights away from everybody, and surely not the lakes area where a lot of that was agriculture. We purchased that agriculture. We planted hundreds of trees. Some of our Norways are 40 foot tall, and we have fruit trees. We have small gardens, but we are stewards to our own land. We're not going to trash our own property. Most people are the same way. The short-term rentals with 14 people in these houses sometimes are overburdening the septics in the lakes area. I agree with some sort of, monitoring, improving, whatever it takes to keep our waters clean. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jeff.
Karen Smith, East Bay Township. Again, I'm on the temporary dwellings. On April 3rd meeting, you talked about there will be no commercial, if you pass this, which hopefully you think about, but that there would be no commercial rentals, no financial transactions to take place. Once again, I think that's a great rule if you are going to pass it, but I want to make sure that if you do pass that there's a way to enforce it. And also, like Camp Graylick, are they going to be able to rent those spots out for tents? They're going to charge for them, and they're going to be back here on the same issue. And it's going to be a temporary dwelling on their acres where they have 200 acres. So I'm just hoping you really consider the people that live there, the septics, the wells, the runoff from all of that into our lakes, and the way that you enforce it. As been spoken earlier, the blight can't be enforced. It doesn't seem like there's enough people on the staff to enforce the rules that are already in place. So just hoping that you think about that. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen.
Hello, Caitlin Flensky, East Bay Township resident and PFL member. As I've spoken out before, I do not agree with the proposed temporary dwelling units verbiage. But instead of beating a dead horse, I'm asking you to think about it this way. Who will count 10 consecutive days? How will they be tracked? And most importantly, how will it be enforced by East Bay Township and not the neighbors? I want to hear discussion tonight of what the specific process will be to ensure that the rule is properly followed, and if it is not, how will those be held accountable? I think you should require the camper to get a permit from the township that is posted at the street, just like land use and construction permits. That way, it will be visibly and easily known that this is a temporary permitted use. The permit would include the dates in use, when the 10 days started, and how many total days have been used in this calendar year. Without any sort of documentation or paper trail, there will be 0 chance this will be enforced and 100% chance it will be abused. And if you say a permit process is too much work or you do not have the staff to do it, then you definitely do not have the time or manpower to enforce this convoluted rule. Please think this through logically. Please listen to us. 179 people signed that petition in the Lakes area. We're full-time, invested, involved residents, and we're trying to protect environmentally sensitive areas. Thank you.
Thanks, Caitlin.
Good evening, Carol Shekra, East Bay Township. And thank you for all that you do and the time that you spend deliberating all of our issues. This is a bit different, but I feel it's important too. I'm here as a member of the Mitchell Creek Fan Club. Actually, all citizens of East Bay, if they don't know it, they should be members of the Mitchell Creek Fan Club. Its waters flow immediately and directly into East Bay, which leads, of course, out into the Great Lakes system. As East Bay Planning Commissioners, you've already read Heather Smith's excellent Grand Traverse watershed letter dated May 5th. You're already well aware of the need to replace the 15 trees that were felled to make room for the DNR bridge leading to, if I understand it correctly, leading to the State Parks Administration Building. Smith's letter states that the 15 trees were within the 50-foot vegetated stream buffer and therefore must be replaced. She furthers what everyone in this room appreciates about the importance of established riparian trees. And to quote from her letter, riparian trees are critical for erosion control, fish and wildlife habitat, storing and filtering stormwater, and shading near-shore trees. Waters. Therefore, we encourage the Commission to condition site plan approval on ensuring that at least 15 native trees are replanted within the 50-foot stream buffer, end quote. Last November, I spoke about the dire state of contamination facing Mitchell Creek. Testing found way too much pollution with everything from farm runoff, animal feces, human feces, and whatever. We spoke of the invaluable workhorse effectiveness of trees, shrubs, and vegetation, because their roots filter and cleanse the water that's flowing to the bay. We want the water as clean as possible when it hits the bay. We're certain that East Bay Commissioners will ensure the replacement of the felled trees. Thanks so much. Good evening.
Thank you, Carol. No way. Okay, we can do that. We'll close the public comment period, move on back to the commission. Claire, we've got an updated site plan, or maybe it's just larger copies, or anything else we needed to be aware of for correspondence?
You received, since the packet went out, you received the two emails from Judy Nemitz that she had mentioned in her public comment. One, I don't think was mentioned, was just regarding municipality hits 5,000 or 50,000 population, so it's something that we're taking a look at with our engineer. Also wanted to note that the Watershed Center sent in the letter that you received that Carol just noted, so that's the only additional correspondence.
Sounds good. Any questions on any of that? Okay, move it over to reports. Mindy, you're up first with the Township Board.
We had a very long meeting last month, but it was a reports meeting. So we had a presentation from the Airport Authority on the expansion that they're proposing coming up. One thing they made the point to us all was that they are only allowed to build for the current amount of people going in and out of the airport. They cannot look towards the future, so they can only build for what's there today, not what they expect in 10 years. So the airports are always going to be cramped, if you would like to use that terminology. We also talked to Metro, the Road Commission. We didn't have a county commissioner here this month. We do have new legal representation. Our former attorneys, the Young Graham Wendling Group, Brian has decided to retire, and Peter has moved his business to specialize in real estate, estate planning, and trust. So I don't know if they sold is the right term, but our new legal representation is Buckham, Thal, Kaufman, and Cox. And we did have a representative here to talk to us about them a little bit. We did as Claire mentioned, we did talk about the planning commission and the fact that we had eliminated the site plan review meetings, but what should we do with, we used to get paid, do we still get paid, yada, yada, yada. And the consensus was that we're still going to get paid. So if you go to any of the sites for which we need a site plan review, and everybody should have a badge that we sign on it to say that, and you will get paid for it. It's totally, I don't know what the term is, but it's your
On your
if you
honor.
will, the sign that you went. And we also went into closed session for a while because there is a lawsuit, Lamar versus East Bay Charter Township. So we did talk about that a little bit as well.
Gotcha. Any questions for Mindy? Okay, Paul, exciting news from the ZBA?
Yeah, the exciting news is that we did have a meeting on April 8th for a dimensional variance in the Lakes area, and that was denied.
Gotcha. Questions for Paul? Okay, back to Claire. Anything new?
I will make just one quick announcement. It sounds like the audience and recorder is having a difficult time hearing through our mics, and so if we can just speak up and into the mic as much as possible. So I have two quick updates for planning and zoning. The first one, I just wanted to give a quick update on the Hilton Hotel. As you'll recall, Planning Commission approved that last year. One of the conditions was ensuring that there was a connection to the Hampton Inn. So it was one of the conditions that the Planning Commission put on that condition of approval. Basically said that that the applicant developer was required to pave all the way to the property line and then onto the Hamptons property to make that connection. And we put that in there just because, with the understanding that it's difficult to get that agreement from an adjacent property owner, but that was a really critical connection. That was, MDOT did approve the plans. They didn't condition the approval on that connection, but they just said, really highly recommended that they work hard to make that connection. So did want to just provide an update that the developer has contacted Hampton multiple times. They're kind of in the process of changing ownership. I've called the Hampton. I've talked with their ownership, their manager, sent a letter, and we're not getting the response that we were hoping for. And so we can't legally require a hotel developer to pave on another adjacent property without their permission. So they will be paving to that property line and, upon future redevelopment of that site, which isn't out of the question, then that would be something that we would ensure that connection. But just wanted to provide that update because it's inconsistent with the condition of approval that the Planning Commission put in. It's just it's slightly not consistent with it, but we don't have a legal basis to require that paving. So just wanted to give a quick update on that. The other thing is just, I sent out invitations, I think earlier today, but we've got that Farmland Preservation and Open Space Public Forum that's on Tuesday, May 27th from 5:30 to 7 here at the Township Hall. There's a flyer in your packet, it's up on the website, and hope that everyone can make it, as well as everyone in the audience. So it should be an interesting discussion. We'll have MSU Extension educators there, and some opportunity for breakout groups and small group discussion and reporting out.
What day and time was that again?
It's the day after Memorial Day. It's Tuesday, May 27th, from 5:30 to 7.
Gotcha. Thank you. Any other questions for Claire? Andy?
Are you gonna mention the email that Sam sent out today about the youth program?
Yeah, so there's the Power of Produce is another program. East Bay Township received grant funding through Groundwork for that. So that is a program, it's open to 5 to 13-year-olds that are East Bay Township residents. So if you're interested, it's a weekly program. There's educational information. You come to the East Bay Township Farmers Market. I believe it's between 4:30 and 5:30 on Farmers Market evenings. And you can go to the East Bay Township website to sign up. I think it's a kind of a pilot program, and there's going to be some fun food-related activities throughout the season. Thank you.
Nice. Okay, moving right along, we'll look to approval of meeting minutes from April 3rd. Any questions, corrections, alterations we need to talk about?
Yeah, I think there's one, on page 4 would be under business before the planning commission, item number C. Wade, 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth sentence up, I think that it's not if, it is prohibited. Wasn't exactly sure, but I think that there should be is. Reading that, if the number of nights exceed a certain number, or note that a commercial use of camping as non-designated campsite is prohibited.
I would
But it
agree.
could go either way.
Yeah, I think it should be
I'm with you, Paul.
Yeah. So, that's the only correction, and I thought that that was an important correction to make sure that it would say it is prohibited.
Was that a motion with that one amendment?
That's my only, I'll make the motion to accept with the adjustment.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Paul, seconded by Steve for approval of the meeting minutes from April 3rd with that one correction. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Next up is new business before the Planning Commission. First up is the State Park Phase 2 Site Plan 8-25. Claire, how about we have you kick it off, and then we'll invite our applicants up to kind of talk a little more about it.
Okay. So this is a project that you are well familiar with. I think we have the sketch plan review, and then we had the Phase 1 introduction with the Planning Commission back in February that was approved. But the understanding was that the full site plan and the landscaping details were forthcoming. So that's what's here this evening, presented in front of you. You'll see, if you go through the staff report, the majority of the items in the ordinance were satisfied, but there were a few flagged areas from the staff review that I did want to give MDNR a chance to expound on and respond to. The first one deals with landscaping. So as was mentioned during public comment, there were 15 mature trees that were removed within the 50-foot setback of Mitchell Creek. On the original plan set, none were planned to be replanted there. The updated site plan does show 15 additional trees. They provided an updated site plan. From my looking at it, and I was looking at it electronically, it still appeared that those 15 trees were outside of the 50-foot buffer. But I will defer to MDNR when they provide their update. The second item is just that there are, as you'll see on the site plan, in the undeveloped site where the headquarters is being located to, there are only 5 trees planned at the new headquarters building. So granted, this building is not visible from the public right-of-way. MDNR has also indicated that they're interested in putting solar there, so they're looking to limit the amount of shade kind of in that immediate vicinity to allow for solar. But the way that the site plan is put together right now for that specific building, it doesn't meet our new landscaping standards. So the 2 items that it doesn't meet is related to the foundation plants required along the kind of the building, as well as the trees and landscaping in the parking area. So the Planning Commission does have the ability to waive any of the landscaping requirements if there are justifiable and unique circumstances. So the specific element of the zoning ordinance, the Planning Commission can discuss and make a determination this evening related to landscaping. I will note that the 15 trees that were removed within the setback, that's not in the landscaping standards, that's in the environmental sensitive areas, and so the Planning Commission doesn't have that flexibility to waive that standard. There was also a few concerns with the proposed pedestrian accommodations, so I'll highlight 3 of them. The first one is just that there's not a pedestrian route for campers, and I might just show on this, if you don't mind. understanding, if campers are coming this way, they want to pick up wood, they want to stop here back to their campsite. There's only one entrance location, and so I think, from a pedestrian standpoint, that is, extra walking to come back here, navigate through here and get back. So I think just from a pedestrian connectivity, that's a concern. At the same time, and as the state park will mention, they're trying to limit the points of ingress and egress just for security reasons. So, they can speak to that in more detail, but that's an area that we're writing out, is that the only kind of pedestrian entrance is right here on the far east side of the site plan. The other one is just kind of this internal circulation area. There's one crossing here. I would like to see the crossing have a shorter, crossing distance over here as opposed to this longer crossing distance. There's only one crossing location. You're crossing multiple lanes of traffic to get over to, I think it's, Firewood and Ice. So it's just another consideration. And then the third one is just with the bridge. There is, so a lot of, the majority of these roads obviously are multimodal, they're dual use, so that you don't have a separated pedestrian facility and vehicle facility. I do think with this bridge, it's worth considering the pedestrian facility, because right now it's only vehicular. But again, and you probably saw in the email that came from the state park that they had looked at, priced out both options and ended up going with the vehicular only. So those were a few items, and those go back to the standards in our ordinance. Specifically, the requirement that development sites shall provide for the safe and comfortable circulation of pedestrians as follows. So there's some specific standards in there, but they're not so specific that they provide kind of that black and white guidance of exactly how what type of facilities need to be provided.
Okay.
I will mention that the Metro Fire approval did come in, so that was one area that was outstanding, and that the Metro Fire approval, they had no concerns and indicated that the applicant can move forward with the township approval process. And I think that's it that I had in terms of highlighting for the state park. I'm happy to answer any questions. I know they've got
Representative?
yeah, lots of representatives from the state park, as well as their consultants are here as well.
Gotcha.
Just please point out that west area you want for pedestrian purposes. On the west side, where is that again?
Just as a pedestrian is walking from the west side,
Right.
there's no location to enter until they get right here. So, say they're coming back from eating, they want to get ice, so they're coming all the way back here, and then they're going back to their campsite, as opposed to providing some entrance location on the west side. It's just an item that I was bringing up.
Okay, thank you.
And we have representatives from the park here. Come on up.
Hi, I'm Casey Klein. I'm the Cadillac District Supervisor.
I'm Bob Vershave with Gosling Zubak, civil engineer with the project.
Stephanie Rosinski, the park supervisor.
I'm Anna Kent, the project architect, project manager from Integrated Architecture, dealing mostly with the buildings and the landscape design.
And Pete Little, park supervisor.
Nice to meet you all. So help us fill in the blanks. I guess it sounds like we've got some landscaping things we've been talking about, some accessibility issues we've been talking about. Can you help kind of guide us in the direction you'd like to go? Whoever's up first. The rest of you could be on deck.
I'll start it off. So, yeah, as I mentioned, I'm with Gosling Zubak. We're the civil engineer on the project and helped work with the architect and the DNR developing the site plan. I think from what you've seen the last time we were here this winter, the overall layout and feel hasn't changed significantly at all. We've added the landscaping, completed the grading work. stormwater management, the sewer service connection, a water connection. So we've done all the nitty-gritty details that go into developing a site. So I don't know if I need to go over the bigger picture other than help answer the questions that are out there. So I think the trees in the setback that was brought up, I think we've provided the plans that are on your desk. The landscape plans address that. We've added more trees near that buffer area. The trees that the trees that were removed were very close to
Excuse me, what are you referencing? What's the, so we can see this on our,
LP1-03. It's the one of the landscape sheets.
yeah,
The last page.
Second to the bottom.
got it.
So the 15 trees that were taken out to accommodate the bridge crossing that goes across the wetlands here were very close to the existing pavement and curb area of where the current contact station was, or still is actually. So, and I think the buffer, it's 50 feet from the creek edge, so the trees that were removed were closer to the upland side anyways, and we're filling in around on either side of the road going across the bridge. That's this clouded area, so that's where those trees are proposed. It's already a pretty robust buffer area either side of that bridge that where we're cutting through there, and I don't know that the plantings would be successful if they were stuffed into that existing dense vegetation as it is. So, we're getting as close as we can to that crossing to provide those additional trees.
Is there, there's a black chain link fence there right now that runs along by the contact station, and there's several stumps along on the park side of that black fence. Was it disturbed on the wetland side of the fence? It looked like there was some stuff also cut in there. Is that, or is it just the stumps that were visible from the road there?
Well, yeah, any stump, I mean, we left the stumps when we were doing the clearing, and we only cleared, the area right to where the bridge is going.
So you didn't do any clearing on the other side of the chain link fence that's existing currently?
They took the fence, there's a stretch of fence that was taken out, and that was, those trees that we were allowed to remove were probably just past that fence.
Okay.
So that was one of the items. I think one of the other landscaping items was along the Tart Trail. So this would be the other LP sheet that you have in front of you. So we added more plantings down on that. This area is really the thinnest that's there now. If you walk along the Tart Trail, everything else has been maintained, providing a pretty robust buffer except for this area. So we're going to plant back there. And there's, I don't know, do you know how many more? I
don't recall. I think she just tried to provide an adequate amount of
11 or 12 trees there. So then as time goes on, I think, we also, was mentioned in one of the emails about transplanting and whatnot. And I know we have the large wetland, or stormwater area, the DNR is anticipating that it will naturally regenerate growth in that area, and then they'll take the opportunity to transplant trees into that area too as they, start living at the site. So that was that point. If we want to go back to,
While you're there, could you speak to the foundational plantings that Claire had mentioned as well, around the building itself?
so along the building, the majority of the building is a garage with doors and approaches and not really areas to plant anything. There's an area out in the front that's designated as like it's a small strip, it's like 4 feet wide. We're proposing to just put a stone cover there, just to low maintenance type of treatment there. So really, there's only like this side of the building, and there's a patio on the back side, and then another little lawn area, if you will. So I think we're just planning to restore with native grasses and anaconda. I don't know if you know what. We just some native grass, and really we're not proposing any shrubs or foundation plantings along that building. It's very it's not highly visible to the public. I mean, the public area, the campground back here, it's mostly going to be staff and other DNR officials that come and go from this area. So.
Yeah, part of the siting of the building was to get kind of the administrative and maintenance yard functions away from the public eye, so you're not seeing those back of house things. So we located it in the back, kind of strategically to keep the tree cover around the building as much as we could. But then when it came to the landscaping, we kind of wanted to keep it minimal because it is kind of out of sight of the public, surrounded by that wood. And like Bob said, the plan is to kind of have it regenerate over time along with the native plantings that we're putting in. And also kind of some areas around the headquarters. I think the solar was mentioned, so we're going to have solar on kind of this southwest facing headquarters roof, so we don't want to block that in the future.
So just along this edge here of the building, this is all remaining wetland vegetated buffer area as well. So there's really, 10 feet of area that we're replanting grass just to stabilize the ground. Any more questions on that?
So the 15 trees that were removed, you're saying they can't be replaced within the 50-foot setback? It's hard really to tell where that delineation line truly is, to see where they would be in respect to that setback.
So this, say that area was about the 50-foot area that was cleared that we're bringing the bridge through, the road bridge, so, we had to remove them to make way for that structure. And the original plantings were probably right along the fence area, right along here. So we're just proposing to relocate them along this, either side of the road coming.
But they're not within the 50-foot setback, or they are?
They would be outside of that 50.
Okay.
And there are trees on the east and west side of this, on that square that Bob just drew.
Okay.
Yeah.
But could you not put those 15 trees back in other strategic locations within that 50-foot setback?
I mean, we could, I don't know how successful they'd be.
Well, they'd be right next to kind of where you tore them out, and they were successful there, weren't they? Or,
They were mostly upland. It's, I mean, I saw them, I provided pictures before they were taken out. They were trees like that were in the park originally. They just happened to be right at the 50-foot mark, so, I mean, we can field locate them within these areas if that's what's desired, but I think they'll have a better probability of being successful plantings along the road where the landscape architect walked them.
I like where they are in that picture, but we have a, requirement that they have to be replaced within the setback. Does anybody else want to comment on that?
And Claire, just for clarity, that was kind of how I read it, Rhonda, was that it was supposed to be placed within a certain spot. And within the 50-foot setback, that's, I mean, even if they were strewn kind of throughout that region, that's, yeah, it's kind of a requirement. It's not, we don't have any wiggle room on that one.
We can move them out there. We'll just, either side of the pavement within 50 feet, we'll find spots for 15 trees, okay?
I just want to say, like, the natural that is already there, now that the big canopy is gone, the natural stuff that is there is going to grow up, and it's actually going to be better for the environment and better chance of surviving than planting 15 new trees and pulling out all that natural stuff to get new trees put in. That's what I wanted to add to that. Like, sometimes, yes, we took the 15 trees out kind of along that barrier, but if we can get some in as close as we can, but let the natural stuff from the lower story grow, it's going to be much more successful than planting new trees.
Right, but you could plant further away from the crossing, right?
Sure, I mean, we can
Yeah.
go either way, either side, I mean,
So that you're leaving that understory that's finally, getting some sun and coming through, but then you also still retain, based on our ordinance, the 15 trees that were removed would be replaced.
Are we getting, I think we're pretty close to the property line.
But you can
there is a
go-
corner right here.
You got that side.
You got lots to the east.
We'll,
Got the other side, too.
I mean, if it strictly needs to be within the 50-foot buffer, we'll make sure that we put them there.
It doesn't have to be where you took them out, obviously, so spread them farther, I guess, to the right on that photograph.
The problem with, I think, what we're running into is if we were to, that's a standard that's kind of outside of our purview to waive. So if you were to go through and have to alter that, then you're going to go visit our friend Paul at the ZBA. And they got a pretty pristine record as of late.
Well, we're not, no offense, Paul, but we don't want to see you. I'm sure you don't want to see it.
No, it's just as well.
We're happy to work with you on all the other things. It's just, we're kind of tied.
It's something that can be conditioned. We're happy to follow up with a plan that shows those within the 50-foot area.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Can you speak to also the pedestrian accessibility in accessing the ice and kind of the firewood station? I guess I've noticed on your site plan as well, just the connectivity there is tight. You're limited by what you've got to work with. And I don't know if there's any suggestions how to make that a little more user-friendly, but maybe talk us through kind of your thought process.
Sure, I don't know how many of you guys camp, state parks. How many of you carry a bundle of firewood or two and walk all the way to your campsite?
make my kids do it on their bike. What are you talking about?
Bikes work, I mean, I drive my truck, send my kids with their bikes, so, yeah, I mean, I think, you know, the main function of the contact station is, you know, people when they arrive, check in to get their campsite, that's where they're gonna stop. When they need ice and firewood, they're gonna come and get it there. I argue that most people are gonna drive or, you know, take another route or another way to get there besides just walking. But, also, so that's, I mean, we've got lots of parking available for people to do that. All the roads in there are just, you know, that's where the people are gonna walk from. So they're gonna be coming from their campsites along the road. There's a sidewalk here. It was kind of like it kind of got, we had lots of different iterations of where we wanted sidewalks. Some people didn't even want sidewalks, so we just ended up with a sidewalk there. So, and then a crosswalk to follow. But, I mean, in reality, I think people are they're just gonna flow the straightest route, and it's gonna be right up through there. They might not even continue on the sidewalk. They'll filter over in there. But, I mean, we can adjust it if needed. I don't think it's a high, it's not gonna make or break the site for us.
Right.
I guess
I honestly would kind of defer to the DNR on that one. You guys know your users.
Yeah.
I mean, has that been kind of your experience?
So
There's probably a reason you did it.
I've worked on and off at Traverse City State Park since 1996. or 97, I started my career there. So this is super exciting for me to see this. So our contact station is here. Most of the time when people are coming in to register, they've been coming in on this side, like this is our main entrance in, so cars are continuously going through. What we did with this design is everyone coming in, unless they're coming in to register, they're gonna stop, get out of their car, come into the building. Everyone is going around the back side of the building, so that when people are crossing here, they're not gonna get the all-day, everyday traffic. So we really kind of thought through that idea of this sidewalk being like, yeah, it's a sidewalk, it's gonna be kind of busy, but people are gonna be stopping to come in and register and not continuously go around and go through. So I don't know if that helps with that, like not, all of our campers are coming from here. The other thing that we know is there's a small percentage that come up and buy firewood and ice and walk up or ride up bikes. But most of them drive up. So they'll come around, they'll park over here in these parking spots, and they can grab their firewood and ice and then continue on out. And that's just something that we see. People, they don't want to carry it. It's hard to carry 2 bundles of firewood on a bicycle, and especially your kids probably. We're getting Band-Aids out for scraped knees, right? Because they're falling. So that's kind of why we designed this the way that it is designed there.
Thank you for that, that's helpful. What do you think?
Yeah, I guess for me, I camp regularly, and it generally seems to me campgrounds are like one of the few places where traffic does not speed. And I've never run into a pedestrian problem in a campground, personally. So I'm comfortable with, I think people just walk on the roads. That's kind of what they do, and they kind of just,
And I will say too, just in terms of general information, our Park Host site is on the south side of this plan. That's where we have a big, pavilion that has brochures and things. So it's, the folks that are coming to the contact station are usually only coming once a visit, maybe twice to replenish if they're there for a few nights. But the contact station isn't necessarily the place where people go to get every question answered. We have like events and things down at the Park Host shelter. And again, it's not necessarily like a welcome center where people are coming back and forth multiple times a day. I would say in terms of the pedestrian traffic that leaves the entrance exit currently is really a majority of the time the lodge users, which the lodge is currently right here where the contact station is, the new contact station is shown. Now that we won't have guests staying there, I'd be surprised, if people are still wanting to try to get out the west side here. I really wanted to take account of the number of campsites, but the vast majority of there's 349 campsites. I would say 90+% of them fall to the east side of the current pedestrian crossing. So that there's this much more campground that's not shown on this image here too. So.
Sure.
So just to kind of piggyback on what Casey mentioned, with everybody being on that side of the property, this is the kind of the main sidewalk that leads up towards where the bridge currently is. That, the majority of traffic is going to be funneled up through here, and then they go to the beach, and then they're able to go east or west, and then when they're coming back, the majority of them are going to be heading towards their campsites if they're coming from the west, so they'll come in and hit the main trail, or they'll find their way that way to the east. So.
Got it. That's helpful. Mindy?
I would like to see a more westerly entrance to the site, because if you've got kids out and about, right, their parents are going to want them to get into the park. Get into the park, and then we're safe, and if they're crossing, they're going along even further down the thoroughfare, parents aren't going to like that. So I do like that western entrance idea, just to get the kids back into the park at night or, whatever, so that they're not still on that sidewalk next to the highway.
I think the one challenge is just with the design of it right now is there's no sidewalks.
Right,
for-
I think that they need to come back in right by that contact station, because that's also where you got your ranger to make sure that there's somebody that's coming in as people that are supposed to be in there, right? You've got that contact with that person coming in if you come in, and then you're straight into that sidewalk and into the park.
So you're looking for something in this area?
Yep.
I think that's the end of our list, though.
The the bridge, there's no pedestrian lane, and so Claire, that was on your list too.
So yes, we looked at that early on. It was considered just the modes of transportation in the campground, and currently, campers share the road with everybody. Vehicles, bikes, pedestrians. The headquarters being, primarily for DNR staff only, the traffic going over there is going to be down. Pedestrians aren't going to be excluded, and, there will be interest to check out that side too, but, the amount of traffic that's going to be using the bridge, just, be in the park, it's going to be low. It's not going to be high traffic, and I think, the users, the people that are driving on it are going to be looking out for campers. So it's wide, it's a regular width of the road. We like pedestrians sharing the road, any county road around here.
My only
For future sorry.
No, that was on my list of things to talk to you about, because my only thought is that we've already been told that the future idea of that other side is to also maybe have some hiking trails, and so you're going to be encouraging pedestrians to go to the other side. And so if we're looking into the future, and goodness knows you're not going to redo this again, this is it, I would think.
We have thought about that, and like Bob was saying, right now, the only reason to go back there is to go to our headquarters. Our employees are back there. There's no gate access to Tart Trail. There is nothing back there. Say in 10 years, because I don't see us getting, our next thing that we're going to do, if we would do something, is going to go, our money's going to go to do stuff over at the beach area. So to put in trails or ask for more camping back there, that's, 10, 20 years down the road. I mean, this has been since 1996, since I've been there, we've been talking about doing this. So it's been taking a long time. So we've considered that, hey, someday when we decide that we want to do that, maybe we put in a nice little pedestrian crossing just for them to get to the trail system, is what we were thinking.
Excuse me, what entrance do you have for the Tart Trail?
Right now, it's on the very far east end.
I found this on the web for what it's.
Maybe Sarah
She'll tell you.
Apparently serious.
Just like, give you directions there.
That was awesome.
We have a Tart Gate entrance right between Site 46 and 47 on the far end of the east side of the park.
Right, are you only going to have one, or are you planning
Right
on?
now, we're just planning on just keeping that one at this point.
Okay. Because that area by your headquarters is a good spot to have another location, so.
It is, and it's something we had considered, but at this point, because we didn't add a pedestrian, we didn't want to put more pedestrians on that bridge because we don't have that pedestrian lane, and it was a lot of money that we didn't have to do right now, and that's why we're like, hey, maybe in the future we can put in something, but for right now, we just decided not to do that and add that to this.
And to Anna's point, her earlier comment about part of the reason why we wanted to move the headquarters was to get our sort of business operations outside of the campground area. We don't now want to bring people, we have tractors loading and unloading off of tractors, we've got lawnmowers loading and unloading, semi-truck deliveries coming back here and stuff. It's not that, at this phase of the design, it's just not to the point where we would want to bring and encourage pedestrians. And for me, if I saw a big pedestrian access, I would think that there was something over there for me to go see.
Yep.
So,
Well, I will say, I do kind of share the opinion that we should have an entrance on the west side. I just think that.
Just to kind of add to that, I think, it was talked about last time we were here, and I mean, at our open house, the Tart folks were very, they were very interested in engaging with the DNR, to have that as well. And I think that effort is something that, it's going to need to be a collaboration between the DNR and Tart, and to come up with something that is usable for both groups. And then, it could become something at that point, and then, maybe the crossing becomes a boardwalk type of scenario that Tart's built in many places. If you go up Charlevoix, you can see their trails along that route, 31. So maybe the best shared trail isn't at that bridge location, but just off it or somewhere. But the bridge could also be expanded too, which is something in the future we'll evaluate when those stars align.
Okay, thank you.
I'm just concerned about the environmental impact of having a second bridge in the building and the disruption to that very sensitive area. So that's why I thought it should go on now instead of,
We could expand the bridge, and it wouldn't be hard to just take this structure that's dedicated for the pedestrians only, and just, maybe one more pile at each bent, and then the framing to carry
The weight.
the decking for the pedestrians. So.
okay.
Any other Mindy?
So we talked before, and I don't remember if it was when we were talking about the trees or the site plan review, but we talked about that this headquarters building is for other areas or other parks. How much of the traffic that is coming to this headquarters building is not staying in this park?
deliveries.
Yeah.
And then your daily boat launch folks that leave like your State Forest Campground and boat launch folks.
Right. It's just our employees, but we do have some that go out to take care of our state forest campgrounds and boating access sites, so they have trucks and trailers, because they work out of our office, and, you know, they're employees at Traverse City State Park. But mostly, it's just going to be deliveries. We have a firewood delivery once or twice, once every week or every other week, we get a semi in with firewood.
That comes at 7 a.m.
Yeah, he comes.
He's parked and sleeping in his cab by the time we get into the office.
Right. You know, and then UPS will be coming through, or, you know, like if we had UPS deliveries or something, but it's mostly going to be employees.
So how many employees of the Traverse City State Park don't work at the Traverse City State Park?
They all work at the Traverse City State Park. We also take care of State Forest campgrounds, like that, the State Forest campground boating access sites, that all belongs to Traverse City State Park. I'm the park manager of all of that stuff.
Okay, and how many of those employees do you have that don't work at the actual physical Traverse City State Park on?
4.
Yeah, maybe 4.
Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't understand what your question was, I guess. I wanted to go back to that, you know, wanting that western gate here by the contact station. My window, my office window, Pete's office window, we look right out at our main entrance all the time whenever we're there. And you rarely ever see anybody walking in and out through there. They all use the one that's farther in, like where the bridge is, they use that, or they go out the Tart Trail. There's nothing to draw them out to the road and along the highway and down to the left-hand side, because it's all vacant lot right now or hotels. Like, there's nothing there. So people don't tend to go out the main entrance whatsoever. They go out, you know, in a car they go out, but if they're going to walk or run or whatever, about 99% of the people use the other two paths.
That's today.
One point, just to maybe break it up a little bit, is I was just thinking, with the amount of room that you have on the south side of the bridge and headquarters being kind of all disturbed at the same time, is there opportunity to maybe put some of those trees, spread them out in that area as well? And I'm really thinking, like, you've got quite a condensed little spot on the north side of the bridge. If you think it would help the survival of them, it'd still be within that 50-foot place, just on the different side of the creek, kind of a situation. It might buy you a little bit of room. I'm just brainstorming.
I think we'll just have to get out when the trees show up. We'll have to just go out there with the guys planting them and
Spot 'em.
find the spots. We can stake them ahead of time, and, you know, that's something that Claire wants to review.
Sounds good. Any other questions for the applicant?
Since we're on the tree subject, you know, there was a significant cut of trees, like almost 300, right? To get ready to move the entrance and all of that. Looking at the replant, there doesn't seem to be, you know, nearly, you know, that percentage of trees coming back in. Is there just a thought on that? With, you know, 300 cut, can we put 300 back? Is there room somewhere else in the park that needs a refresh?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was included in your packet. The 2 landscape plans we showed tonight are to comply with zoning, basically, which focuses along the road. We do have a future landscape plan as well, with more plantings within the park around the contact station on that island.
Oh, so there is a formal landscape plan, okay.
Yep, the reason we separated those is to just keep an eye on budget. We want to make sure we're complying with all of the East Bay requirements. And the future plan is we absolutely want to do it. We're bidding it as an alternate. But if something has to be cut, if the budget's running out, it was kind of like, well, that's something the DNR could do themselves or do over time or do from their nursery stock. So we do have a future, we really want to do this plan, but just for how we're bidding the project. We kind of separated it out, so you might only be seeing the zoning plan, not the future goals landscape plan as well.
And I will just say too, that we have been enduring a very small site for how many staff we have and how many vehicles and big trucks and big trailers. We actually technically have like 3 different areas of the park right now that we use to store things because we just don't have enough space around our current building. So Traverse City oversees sites in 4 different counties in the area. And so when you look at the size of this headquarters building, it matches about the same as what Interlochen does, and they have a similar size staff and things. So, you know, we really needed to, as our previous planner used to say that we had 5 pounds, or 10 pounds in a 5-pound bag. And so now we're just finally giving ourselves the breadth and the space that we actually need to you know, fully perform and function. As of right now, we have I don't know if you've noticed all the pallets of firewood that we have stored outside and things that I think is an eyesore. So we're very excited to kind of clean this up and make it look a lot nicer and cleaner, so.
Okay. So when do you expect the bid back to know if there's going to be a close to 300 replant or a back off?
Yeah, that's kind of all in process, and Bob's items have been bid, but what we're waiting on is a full picture of when my building packages are due Friday. So, and then those will go out for bid. We're working with a CM who's under the DNR, so it'll be maybe 3 or 4 weeks before we have a full picture of all parts of the project, because there was the site clearing phase, which you are familiar with. There's this phase, the site phase, then the building phase as well, are all being bid out separately. But hopefully in the next 3 to 4 weeks, we'll, fingers crossed, have an idea of how everything is coming together.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. If we got some other questions, we'll bring you back up, but you've given us a lot to chew on. Comments, thoughts, where are we at, guys? I think we've addressed pretty much all the points now, but I think maybe a couple outliers is, how do we feel about the pedestrian nature of the bridge, or lack thereof currently? How do we feel about the northwest entrance onto 31? Those are the 2 I feel like we don't have consensus on yet.
For me, I'm, with any interior circulation of pedestrians, I'm less worried about that. I just think the way campgrounds run, that's fairly normal. I don't love the idea of people moving east on the sidewalk and having to cross the entrance, especially right turns in on Friday to get into the park, but I suppose if that's what they're doing now, and it seemed to work, then I'm okay with that. Doesn't seem like the best way. It seemed like it'd be easier to come in from the west by the contact station. That way they're in the fence. But if the park says that that's essentially what's happening now, because they're going to the existing crossover, I guess I'm okay with that. And then as far as the trees should, they need to be replaced in the buffer zone. And I'm also fine with Claire making a determination, or planning staff, on how those lay out and where they should lay out with the staff. I don't feel like I need to see another site plan. That's where I am.
I'm in agreement with you.
Any other thoughts?
It's my understanding they're moving the entrance, correct? They're moving it
Yes.
further east.
Correct.
Yes.
So you have will have a longer walk to get into the park. So, again, I'm advocating for that western entrance.
Okay.
Only because if you are extending it, and we know what 31 is like, it just seems that on the return, that's more of a hike to get back into the park.
Is the only crossing to the beach going to be down on the west end at 3 Mile?
Well,
That-
there's one right.
There's a second one.
It's underneath the current bridge.
Yeah, that's a new one.
So,
But remember, the proposed hotel to the west, right, has a coffee shop in it.
yeah,
the proposed hotel on the corner of 3 and has has something in it. So although right now, today, we don't have anybody heading west, what we already know is going to the west could very well change that very quickly. So I think that west entrance is something, and I think that when we did have the hotel on the adjacent property in here, we talked to them about connectivity.
They were interested in it.
They were interested, especially to get them to the TAR trail, right? Get them back to the TAR trail. So I think that west entrance, I agree with Claire that is a good idea. I also am concerned about the lack of plantings around the building. I mean, every other person that's going to come in here is going to have to do the foundation plantings. I'm okay not having the foundation plantings, but I would like to see some more plantings in that stormwater basin and just not let them naturally take hold. I would like some actual plants and figured out what is actually going to go into that basin. I think we need some more information on what's going into there. I'm fine with inner circulation, and that not being a pedestrian bridge. The 50 feet, the 50 trees, you got a lot of Mitchell Creek that you can put these trees in, that's on the property, and we just need to get those in that span. I don't think we need to tell them where they need to go, and I don't think it needs to come back, but they need to be in there. But I would like to see more vegetation on the south of the creek property. I would like some more planting information on that. Well, I don't need to see it, I just want it there. How about that? Claire,
I follow you.
decide what it is.
I follow you. I have to tend to agree. I'm good with the internal circulation. I'm in Mindy's camp with the corner entrance. We've heard so much from, what was it, a Hyatt that was proposed to due west of your property, and they were looking for connectivity to the park exclusively because of their interest in having a restaurant over there and having people coming back and forth.
I just wanted to add, it's fine that our campers would go out that western gate and walk over there, but their visitors cannot walk into the park. The park is a controlled camp area.
Yeah, that's why I like it by the control building, so you guys can see who's coming and going.
Thank you.
As much as marshmallows and hot dogs are great, sometimes nice little break. What do you think?
I just want to point out, we did have a rendering of what the new entrance will look like. So this is the crossing to the beach area. This is all existing over here.
Is that going to be like one of those calming lights where they can push the button and it stops traffic, or no?
It's a full signal, right?
They'll be able to, it's a full signal. It's not one of the.
Oh, it's a full signal?
Yeah, it's not a hawk signal that
Oh,
you
okay.
see in the middle of the parkway.
Right, all downtown has them?
Yeah, no, this is a full signal, and it'll control vehicles leaving the campground, coming into the campground, pedestrians crossing the road.
Huh.
Gotcha.
So there's going to
Make sure
be
that it's clear.
two signals very close to each other.
Nobody's going to be moving there anyway.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Cars or people.
Cars or people.
That's going to be kind of crazy.
Well, and the comment about crossing in the, in front of the campground entrance, there will be pedestrian lights there as well.
Oh,
It'll look like 3 mile and 4 mile roads.
okay.
It'll look.
Oh, so you'll have a stop, a walk signal.
There's a stop bar, yeah. and
Yeah.
then There's push buttons on either side.
Okay.
Okay,
I guess you
okay.
can't see that one, but there's one there. And
It's tiny. Okay.
Okay.
That makes you feel a little better.
Right.
Then you're not walking across right turns in. Yeah.
So if we had to have a motion, I think it'd include a couple of different recommended, help me out, what's the word I'm looking for? Recommendations? Conditions, thank you. One is replacement of the 15 native trees within the 50-foot setback area. And another would be that staff work with the applicant to add pedestrian access to 31 in the northwest corner of the property. And
Well, you're
anything
looking for
else?
just an access, but not necessarily a pedestrian sidewalk connection internal to get people to the campsites.
I mean.
'Cause I think that's a little
I would
bit,
just follow, once they get to the contact station, they can just hit the next sidewalk and keep going.
Access.
Yeah. I'm not even so worried about it being a sidewalk necessarily, just open it up. People find their way pretty quick.
Yeah, people are looking for sidewalks in campgrounds.
Yeah.
Where did we land on the bridge?
I think we're all, and I think,
Keep
we're in
it.
agreement that keep it the way it is for now.
Yeah. Did I miss anything? The only two conditions I could think of.
Well, I'd like to see more plantings on that.
Yeah, around the maintenance building.
On the south side?
I guess the one thing I will say to that is, they did add the additional screening along the TART trail on the south side, which I appreciate, and, I think, given the fact that, it's the Michigan Department of Natural Resources, I do think they have a unique expertise to be able to, ensure that the native vegetation is kind of done in a sustainable manner and kind of done
Talking about the
properly.
Foundation planting
Or
requirements.
just within
for-
that retention basin, not necessarily prescribing that specific trees
Yeah.
or plants get planted. I would probably defer to their expertise on reestablishing those plants.
And having been out there today, if you're looking across at the, from the current, I guess, contact station, you're looking at the bridge area, it's very well screened, even with their clearing. I mean, you can kind of see it back there, but you really can't even, you can tell that it's clear, but it's far enough away. So I'm also okay with, certainly not with needing foundation plantings around the building. So I'm okay without that.
I'd entertain a motion from anyone.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Mindy.
Claire, are you good with the lighting back by this headquarters building?
Yeah, I think, yeah. Yeah, they provided a photometric plan. Are you concerned that it's not enough lighting or too much? It's definitely not too much, but it will be lit, so. But they provided like the foot candles around the perimeter, and so it's very low-level lighting.
Okay. You gonna make me make the motion, is that what you're telling me? I'll make a motion to approve site plan review 8-25, the Traverse City State Park Phase 2, with Claire's memo dated April 30th, 2025, and the recommendations, number one, let's make a division to the last date as April 29th.
Yep.
From the April 28th from Gosling and April 29th from the architect. Condition 2 as is. Condition 3 being replacement of 15 native trees in the 50-foot right-of-way of Mitchell Creek as approved by staff. And condition 4 being a pedestrian access on the northwest corner of the property. Be added.
Is there support?
Support.
Support. Okay, thank you. We have a motion on the floor created by Mindy, supported by Carl, with the attached conditions as well as additions of number 3 and 4. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thanks for working with us. We appreciate your time. Look forward to the improvements. That was letter A, people. Get ready for letter B. We'll give you a minute. Okay, on to our next item. It's the Beach District Sub-Area Plan. This is basic information that we shared a month ago and updating the Beach District Corridor Improvement Plan into the overall master plan, in which we're looking to have a public hearing. Did I miss anything, or should I open it up for a public
Yeah,
hearing?
you can go ahead and open it up. We received one comment. It was from Garfield Township, so they're in support. That was
Good.
the only public comment we received.
Good to hear. So we'll open the public hearing at 7:55. Anyone who'd like to comment on it, come on up to the lectern. And if not, we're all going to know that you secretly support the heck out of this whole thing, so we appreciate it. Okay, with that, we'll close the public hearing at 7:56. Bring it back to the Planning Commission for deliberation or a motion.
Mindy, go ahead. It's busy.
He's busy. All right, on page 17.
Oh, thank you.
121 in the packet. There's two different numbers there.
Under the
You can't
action
read
plan?
that?
Yeah, sorry,
Well,
the footers, is it the first, the page of the action plan that's,
It should be 121, I think. Are you talking where it says 17 and then,
Yeah,
yeah,
goal 4
it's 121 and 17.
and 17.
Yeah.
Okay. I was curious as to what we were talking about of identifying a location to explore expanding opportunities for public restrooms. I was just curious how that came.
yeah, that was something that was discussed during the visioning process, and so we talked about, there's public restrooms available at Johns Park. Potentially, in the future, we would have public restrooms available at the 4-mile road end if that became a public pier. Potentially not. It was very preliminary discussion, but just kind of the desire when you're in like kind of a downtown district or a shopping district or some area where you're going and you're spending some time, you're going to the beach, you're doing some shopping, the ability to have some restrooms. So that was something that we discussed.
Okay, I was wondering if it was more centralized for like the TAR trail and the use of the TAR trail. Another thing that I saw, but I can't seem to find it right this second, is that we've got the interconnect, we want to restrict the driveways, if you will, coming out onto 31. That's a high priority, but connecting them behind is a low priority, and I think they both need to be high. I mean, if we're going to restrict access, we really got to get the interconnectivity going.
Yeah, I think the connecting them behind, I think should have been a high priority. That was, and I don't remember that we differentiated the front and rear connections.
And then there's also the whole thing about the planting in the roadway. Again, you got to get those.
Like the medians?
Two other pieces in place before you can do that, right?
Yep.
So of course I can't find it right now, but those are some things I just want to make sure that those make sense, that all of them are either the same or, right, we get the access being the higher priority and the other one's medium or something, so that we can get the higher priority things in place and going well, and that we don't like try to put plantings in but have no place to get people around them.
Yeah. That's good feedback, thank you. The median is definitely kind of a longer term, but high priority. It was definitely articulated throughout the public engagement process. I think you're seeing,
Access management plan is on page 120 of 197.
Yes, I think the access management plan, that was something that, and that's low. So I think that was part of the kind of thinking behind that. You know, MDOT is very, big proponent of an access management plan. And I think, while I see the benefit of having a plan, at the same time, we have a policy in place and we require connections for every new development. And so I think in some ways it's how would a plan really better implement what we're already doing, which is requiring connections where we can. So I think we're actively trying to reduce the number of access points along that corridor and facilitate connections as much as possible, with the understanding that this is, existing land use, existing corridor, and it's got a lot of challenges. So if we had a clean slate, or if if we're looking at Hammond Road, absolutely, an access management plan could have a tremendous amount of detail there. I think on the US 31 corridor, while an access management plan would provide some benefit, I think that it would have limited ability to really make a lot of a difference when we already have the zoning policy in place that requires those connections as sites redevelop.
Will the access management plan allow us to get grants for that, though?
Potentially, yeah. And that's something that we will continue to pursue. I know that there's the MDOT representative on our implementation team has mentioned that access management plan a number of times, so we'll definitely explore that and see if that's something that we can work on implementing.
I just want to, and I think I just read that wrong, but as I burn through this, but I just want to make sure that we're not saying something's a high priority when we got to do these other steps before and they're a different priority. That was my thought process.
Any other things we need to chat about?
So our plan is to bring, even though there's nothing in the East Bay Township zone, or there's no policy that requires the township board to approve. The township board doesn't approve a master plan in East Bay Township. There's no resolution, in stating that the elected board does. We are planning to have the township board adopt this pending planning commission adoption of this, just because it is tied to financing and the implementation piece. So we will plan to have it in front of the township board at the meeting Monday night.
Sounds good.
Assuming that,
Go ahead.
assuming that you double-check those things that I was talking about, I'll make a motion to approve resolution PC 2025-03, adoption of the East Bay Charter Township Beach District Sub-Plan.
Your support?
No, I was just wondering if we needed to make a motion.
Gotcha.
We have a motion by Mindy, seconded by Rhonda for approval of the resolution PC-2025-03. And Ann, can we please get a roll call vote, please?
Walters.
Yes.
Wassam.
Yes.
Gonzalez.
Yes.
Headley.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Ferguson.
Yes.
And Leonard.
Yes. Thanks, everybody. That goes to the board. Did you say it was next Monday? For consideration there as well. All right, next up, because we've got a few of these here, is zoning amendment 1-25 wireless communication facilities. Claire, I'm going to kick it to you.
So this is an amendment to the ordinance. It's more clerical in nature. We have, the township is exempt from zoning. The township board has traditionally operated by if there's any wireless communication facilities that are interested in locating on township property. They have worked with the applicant on contracts and lease agreements. And so this would be in talking with Township Legal Counsel. The recommendation was to treat a wireless communication facility the same as any other structure or amenity on township property, which is that they would not go through the site plan review process. It would be approved by the township board.
Got it. And only as a point of efficiency, Can we do them all? Because there's 3 of them. Should we just talk through each one of them
I would hold a public hearing for each one.
individually?
Yeah.
Okay. We can definitely do that. Any questions for Claire? Okay, if not, then we will open up public hearing at 8:04. Anyone again can come to the lectern if you have any questions or comments on this consideration. All right, so we'll close the public hearing at 8:04 and a half and bring it back to the commission, and just as a recommendation, this will be a recommendation to the township board, as it is an ordinance amendment.
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of zoning amendment 1-25 wireless communication facilities to East Bay Charter Township Board of Trustees.
Second it.
Thank you. We have a motion by Carl, seconded by Paul, for recommendation to approve 1-25 wireless communication facilities. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. On to 2-25 non-motorized access connections. Anything new there?
Yep, so this is the same, as was discussed at the last meeting. We have made just 2 minor tweaks. The intent was to require those connections between parcels. Right now, it specifies vehicular connections, so this is just clarifying that the access connections between parcels for for the circulation and connectivity would apply to motorized and pedestrian facilities.
Got it. Any questions on that one? If not, we're going to open another public hearing at 8:06. Go through the dance. Anyone like to comment? We'll close it again at 8:06 and a half. Bring it back to the commission. Any questions or discussions?
I'll make a motion to, let me get my glasses on. Wasn't ready for that. Make a motion to recommend approval of zoning amendment 2-25 non-motorized access connections to the East Bay Charter Township Board of Trustees.
Support.
Thank you. Hold on, I'm writing real quick. Apologize. We have a motion by Rhonda, supported by Renee, for recommendation of approval of 2-25 non-motorized access connections. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. And last up for public hearings this evening is 3-25 vehicular stream crossings. I feel like we've even talked about this before at length due to our previous applicants. Anything else we need to touch on, Claire?
This language was adopted by the township board about a year ago. It was a clerical error. That language didn't get integrated into the final zoning ordinance that was approved, so this is the exact same language that was approved.
Gotcha. With that, let's open it up for public hearing at 8:08. Oh, we got one.
No, it's Miss Commissioner Walters, we can't hear you, so if people could really speak into the microphones, we're having a really hard time, especially when people's backs are to us. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Judy. Any other public comment? Okay, we'll close the public hearing at 8:09 and bring it back to the commission.
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of zoning amendment 3-25 vehicular stream crossing to the East Bay Charter Township Board of Trustees.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Carl, seconded by Steve, for recommended approval of 3-25 vehicular stream crossings to the Township Board. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Involved somewhere.
Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Last one up is temporary dwellings. We've got some review of draft standards that are faithful staff took on last month to look through all the minutes, I'm sure at length, and put together a proposal for us. And Claire, if you want to kind of set the table for dialogue.
Sure. So, based on the discussion, I put together some draft ordinance amendment language for you to just discuss this evening. There's no public hearing. But some of the changes that I made based on discussion was that the provision is to allow for one dwelling unit per parcel, so it doesn't really matter the size of the parcel, one temporary dwelling unit. That can be for up to 10 consecutive days and 45 days per calendar year. Temporary dwelling units may not be used in a commercial capacity and may not be located within an environmentally sensitive area. The one thing that I'll mention with the commercial capacity and with the short-term rental ordinance, while there are definitely elements of this ordinance that are going to be hard to enforce, specifically the 10 consecutive days, 45 days in a calendar year, I am much more confident in our ability to enforce the short-term rental because we have GovOS that's scouring the listings on a regular basis. And so we have been able to identify and pinpoint the locations of, homes that are operating short-term rentals as well as, glamping or other types of operations. And we have taken enforcement action on that. So I feel confident that that's something that the township has the tools and the capability to enforce.
Thank you. That's good to know.
The last item, the temporary dwelling unit may be permitted for up to 100 days in the event of home construction, remodeling, or in the event of a fire or natural disaster with the approval of the Grand Traverse County Health Department. So you'll see within the ordinance, I put together there's regulations and conditions. Under B, it's 1, 2, 3, and 4 that apply to all temporary dwelling units. And then number 5 is specific to if you're getting that permit for 180 days or more. So if you have that, then the 1, 2, and 3 would apply. So it would be the temporary structure would be for living while constructing a new dwelling or repairing a dwelling damaged by fire, must be adequately served by water and sanitary facilities as approved by the Grand Traverse County Health Department, and it shall meet all setbacks in the zoning ordinance where it's located. So I did spend quite a bit of time reviewing the other example ordinances that we had, and think that this is kind of a logical way to kind of configure this ordinance based on the guidance from last month.
Sure. Thank you for that. Couple things I'll just start the conversation with is, number one, I remember with some of the stories that we'd heard in months past, I can appreciate a lot of that's gone into this in terms of it being limited to one. I heard of some of the partying that was going on in the past and that being an issue in certain locations, and a number of them, being kind of a limiting barrier to folks in terms of impact on existing facilities to take care of them, frankly. So I think that was kind of again, it's allowing it, but we're kind of controlling it to a certain extent. Outside of that, I do also appreciate the fact that you pointed out specifically the commercial use and taking that out of contention as it's not allowed at all. And outside of that, I remember we had a bit of back and forth on duration, the number of days and things of that, but I think through an active bidding process, we landed on a reasonable number, at least from the last month's conversations. What are other people's thoughts on this?
Do we have a definition of a temporary dwelling unit?
We do. I can pull pull it up. In the current zoning ordinance. While it's loading, I'll come back. You guys can continue your discussion. This PDF is loading slowly.
I do have one
Just
other, oh, go ahead, Rhonda.
I was just considering, the feedback from the public and the information that, a lot of folks have been sharing with us. I believe it was Caitlin, trying to think about this logically. Who's going to count the days? Who's going to enforce it? What if they break, the more than 45 days in a calendar year? Who's going to keep track of all that? And again, and I think this is something I've asked before, but we only address items that the public brings into zoning, and so you have to tattle on your neighbor, basically, and that's difficult and challenging. But I know, that would be a whole change in philosophy, which I would like to see, but having a number of enforcement officers out there is going to cost us a lot of money, too. So that's for future discussion. But, who's going to count it, how are we going to enforce this? Neighbors are just going to have to tattle and rat on other neighbors.
Well, I think we have a lot of things that are complaint-driven in our ordinance. So
Yeah, that's the only way we get anybody out there to take a
But I mean,
peek.
that's our only other option if we don't have enforcement. Enforcement is obviously would be the ideal, but probably not an option at this point, so.
Well, I'd say we do have enforcement, and we're, as
Administrator?
as a township, we are consistent with every other township in the state of Michigan that's complaint-based, complaint-driven.
Yeah.
I thought there were some down in the metro area, Detroit area, that were the opposite.
That are more proactive. That could be.
I'm getting
that's
some
something that
nods.
That's something we could look into. My
Okay.
understanding is that the vast majority,
Yeah,
every
I'm-
MTA
I think the
training
vast
that I've gone
majority are.
to from attorneys
Yeah.
is complaint-driven, so.
Yep.
Honestly, I don't think it's a whole lot different than right now, the way our ordinance is. It doesn't allow anybody, yet we know that people have been doing this. And how did they get it to the township? By somebody complaining. So you're going to have those people that don't complain because it doesn't bother them that their person stayed 11 days instead of 10. I think it'll all work itself out, but I think we're making a really good stride in getting something in the ordinance that is fair and equitable to everybody in the township.
Yeah, I guess I generally agree with Renee. I think we've been back and forth on this, and I think we've heard from people who want to be able to enjoy their property, including having people stay on it, and we've heard from people who want to make sure that their property is not, or their enjoyment is not denied by people staying next door and being rowdy, and I think this is a good compromise.
Is there the opportunity to workshop it, as a number of folks, Larry from PFL mentioned, to send it back?
I was thinking about that. That was one that resonated with me too, Rhonda. It takes a lot to get a lot of people riled up, especially 180 of them all in the same backyard. We did do that with so many other moving pieces of the ordinance, and bless your heart, Carl and Paul, for those long conversations and a lot of fun things. I don't know. I know we are taking that on with the agricultural piece. That was very contentious. We had a number of landowners come out in full force in terms of trying to better understand what we were trying to do and trying to land somewhere reasonable for everybody, if you will, or at least start the conversation. With this one, I kind of tend to lean against that only because we've been talking about this for a while. And this one's been pretty long in the tooth to me. I'm not totally against it, to be honest with you, just because there has been so much horsepower brought to us from the Lakes community.
Time and time again.
Yep. And to be honest with you, and just throwing it out there, Renee's 100% right. People have been camping in East Bay Township forever, with or without a permit. So I don't know if creating something right now is going to ruin our children's camping for the summer in our own backyards, kind of a thing.
'Cause if we let the genie out of the bottle, it's not going back. Could there be a temporary, like, a project to where we offer a limited time and just kind of see the results of opening up for temporary dwelling units?
You mean?
Like a little
adopt the-
project?
I mean, we could adopt the ordinance and rescind the ordinance, but that, I don't think that we could do like a pilot.
Pilot project, okay. Just a thought.
This has the aroma of the short-term rental issue. And I like what's here, but I'm thinking we need just something else. And what that is, I can't tell you right now.
Honestly, I felt comfortable with you, Claire, saying that, you've got someone scouring the VRBOs and I'm looking for those people that are, not following the guidelines of the Airbnb. So I didn't know that, and I think that's great, that we are being proactive on that end. And I think that is probably one of the number one, if I am hearing everybody correctly, the number one concerns is people doing that. I think that'll be the number one thing that people do call in on. I don't think they're going to call on their neighbor having a kid in their tent.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
And
So that's why I think it's going to work itself out, and I think once we do, I mean, if I don't know, I mean, can we amend this later on to shorten days if we feel like it's not?
Yes.
Yeah, we
so-
did that with the short-term rental.
Right, so I just feel like we've got to get something out there so that the people that do want this, that there's a happy medium for everybody. And I think this is good. I think we've put a lot of thought, like you said, we've been talking about this since we went through the whole zoning ordinance, and then we chose to table it because it was so contentious then.
And we've talked
So this
about
is-
it a few times since.
Yeah, this is not anything new by any means, and I think that we have been taking into consideration everybody's input on this, which is how we came up with this.
Miss
What do you think,
Mindy,
Mindy?
I see a smirk on your face.
You have to remember that the short-term rental ordinance is a police power ordinance. It is not a zoning ordinance. Because if you do zoning ordinance, you get into the whole grandfathering and loopholes.
Yeah.
So I don't believe you can go from 45 to 15 or 45 to 30. You can go the other way easy, but you can't go back easy, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, so, and we can double check with legal counsel on this, but I believe because this is regulating an activity, it's under zoning, but it's still regulating a number of days. So there's no really, say that you've already, established yourself where you're there 45 days a year. If we change the ordinance to 35 days a year, then that would apply across the board. So I don't see this as something that would apply to our non-conforming standards, because our non-conforming standards are related to an underlying use and to a structure. And to me, this is a temporary use, And so I don't see this as fitting into our nonconformity section. I can definitely double check with our legal counsel on that. That's a good question.
It'd be good to verify.
I love the idea of a permit. I love the idea, even like the state forest has, where you go in, you pay your whatever, and you get a permit for however many days you stay there. And I think it could be so easy as if it was on the website, you just print it off, you got it for 10 days, the date for which you started and the date is on there, and it's trackable and
Well, it's free on the DNR website. You just go in and say, I'm going to stay 2 weeks.
I think you got something.
Accountability.
Somehow the idea of the permit makes some sense here. I mean, somehow you've got something to track.
And if the kids are camping in the backyard, they still can get one, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's not,
Doesn't cost any money. I mean, it's gonna cost the township some money for software or whatever, but
I mean, you can book, Grace McDonald, do it in the same type of manner. I'm sorry. Yeah, we have bookings, similar free bookings with our parks, so we could have a similar approach to that.
I know that you're really mad at me when I said that right now, but I.
No, I think we could.
No, I was just going to bring it up after you about some sort of, because it was mentioned, even if it's something online that people can check, like, this site was registered 8 days ago. Seems like it's been longer, but no, it's only been 8 days. Or, oh, they've only registered it and it was 12 days ago, so do something about it.
my problem is the vacant land piece. And the septic issues. I mean, I can see where you have camping in the backyard is one thing, but you got a vacant piece of land that people are going to be on for 10 days or what have you. Is there anything that we could be qualifying that says that you need to, provide some type of septic system or something of that nature? Camping is camping, except what are they going to do, dig a hole? I mean, that's, but one of the things that kind of bothers me about that in the vacant land piece. I just think we need to zero in something about that.
I say remove it.
Well, or put it in, if we are going to go down this rabbit hole of permitting it, then I think that could be a standard that's put in there, is to either outline it or say that you're in compliance, so that, again, you at least have a footing to stand on when challenged in the future.
Some providing some, temporary septic system. I don't know. I'm not a camper, so I don't know. I'm sure there's something of that nature out there today.
So Paul, right now, and I'll just read to you what it says, is that so right now it says that the temporary structure must be adequately served by water and sanitary facilities as approved by the Grand Traverse County Health Department or applicable agency. So that's for the 180 days?
Yeah,
or
that's
or
180,
less.
yeah, and I
So this
see
would be
that.
something separate where we wouldn't necessarily need a county health department, but there would be something where you write in how you're disposing of your waste. You're
Yeah.
providing that information.
I'd be providing.
You're not necessarily receiving any type of a permit.
Well, somehow on the permit, it has to be one of the conditions, and how that is worded or how we formulate it, that's something that needs a little bit of thought.
But you're looking for the applicant to provide that information?
Yes, I am.
As opposed to getting a separate permit from an entity?
Oh, yes, I mean, that information needs to be provided. It just seems that, it's one thing to have, a camp with a couple of people for 10 days. It's another thing when you have as we've heard, these parties where there is this vacant property somewhere, where the people do have these parties, and they got 40 people there. And that seems to me like 40 people partying for a number of days is going to cause some type of issue, shall I say. So it just seems that something needs to be added in there that handles that particular issue. Just bothers me about the vacant land.
So back to the ordinance language. Sounds like we've got some homework to do in terms of like what a permit could look like, if that's a route we want to pursue. I don't know that we'd have to, Claire, would we have to put that in here? Okay, so we'd have to amend this
And
too.
I almost wonder, do we want to have two separate permits? One for the long-term emergency and one for the short-term?
I think that's a good call.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I think that the long-term needs to be a whole lot more planned and contact with the township to know what's going on and, you know, why they're getting this and why they're getting, what is their issue that's, whether it's new or a natural disaster that has happened to them. Where I think that the one that I'm thinking for the short term is quick and easy. It's just doing it, right?
Kind of like the
long term
permits we
is
used to
governed
do.
by an event.
Yeah.
You know, these others are almost spontaneous issues.
I still am not convinced on the 45 days, though.
Too long or too short?
I think it's too long.
I don't know.
And then we've heard from PFL, you know, for a couple of months based on their signatory letter that they sent in. Anybody have any thoughts on that? I think you already know where I stand.
I think I'm in a position where I'm comfortable with this as is, and with some adjustments with enforcement and delineation between the long and the short, so that there's a clear distinction between doing it two different ways. I don't mind the idea of the permit. It does provide some legal background if there is a challenge or a question. I think back to my childhood and my mom calling Victor Township Hall every time we had a fire, whether it was roasting marshmallows or starting a huge bonfire. And I don't think that's overly burdensome, especially if it's going to be something that you just kind of get into a rhythm with, but especially if it's free and it's easy to track and just jump on our website. I like that idea. Technology has helped in that regard, but I'm good with, as it stands, gets the conversation started. It won't be the last time that it comes before us. It won't be the last time it comes before the township, because the board will ultimately have a say in this as well. But Mindy, what are you thinking?
Wasn't this actually discussed by the committee? And wasn't
The
there-
zoning ordinance subcommittee? Yeah.
So this was already taken to the committee, essentially.
Yeah, and the draft language that came out of the committee was longer. I think it was up to 60 days per calendar year, and I think 14
remember.
days. It was something similar to
60
this,
is
but,
bringing it-
yeah, but it came out of the subcommittee, and then it came to the planning commission.
That's how we
Which I
got
think
on
was
this.
how we ended up on
That's-
45,
I think it is.
because it was a longer time, and you didn't like it.
I don't know what, I like 30.
Procedurally, do you need a motion for us to move this ahead?
I think that I've got guidance, and I can come back. We're not setting a public hearing, so I can
Right.
come back with some updated draft language based on the discussion.
Is everyone comfortable with that?
Depending on schedule, it might not be next month, because I think we have a pretty full agenda next month, so it will be, depending on agenda and the amount of,
So we're going to be midsummer before this goes anywhere anyway.
So you would be,
I certainly can bring it back next month. I believe we have 2, possibly 3 larger items on the agenda.
you would be amending the draft ordinance just to include the permit.
I'm going to check with legal counsel on just the non-conforming and if we reduce the number of days, how that's going to happen. I would add the permit, I would add the piece about waste disposal information to be provided on the permit.
Yeah, you have one other definite delineation, and that is using again, going back to the old point, using property that has a facility on it now versus the vacant land. And I think you need something that's maybe a little more tailored when you have on the permit, whether it's a permanent facility or if it's vacant land, and there has to be some issues and guidance as far as the vacant property is concerned, especially around the water and the septic system, and certainly, what.
But aren't we already covering that by saying that they cannot be used in an environmentally sensitive area?
Well, again, you're getting into what's environmentally sensitive. I mean, definitely the boundary section between ourselves and the water, that 50-foot section, that's the environment. But outside of that, you do something on, the property is, 200 feet deep.
I feel like we're making strides. We're getting it closer.
I don't think we should allow it on vacant land. Who's getting if somebody is camping on your property, you have oversight of that, and if things get out of control, you're there. But if it's vacant land, you don't know what's happening.
What if it's your own vacant
I would bet
land?
it's probably their own.
I go keep going back to the
Probably.
gentleman that has been coming up for years and staying on his property. Did that come out, and was he here or sent a letter?
Oh, he was here last meeting.
He was here.
I know that.
And I think that's super unfair to, obviously, he's been doing it against the ordinance, but I just think that there's people that do that come up here, and that's how they can afford to get away and stay on their property. So then I don't think that's fair to them. And I don't think they're the ones busting the rules, except for staying where they shouldn't have been, but a lot of people don't even check the ordinance when they do that kind of stuff. Right, wrong, or indifferent, but I just don't think that's fair to, penalize somebody that's owned property up here and say, well, sorry, you can't stay on your own property. So many of these, most people aren't going to be staying in a tent. Most people are going to be in an RV camper of some sort. And the way they're set up now, so many of them are set up to go off grid. Got solar and everything, so.
Okay. Claire, do you feel confident in kind of making some tweaks and coming back to us with a new draft or an updated draft in the coming months?
Yep. Between this, my notes, and listening to the recording, yep.
Sounds good. Thank you, everyone, for the dialogue. Appreciate it. And we'll move to round 2 of public comment.
Just a suggestion from when I was working, when we did this stuff. When you put in an address on the permit, isn't that address, can it bump up against whether it's a vacant lot or whether it has a home on it? Then you would know which ones need to have sanitation to be checked on versus the ones that there should be a home there where somebody should use it. I'm just thinking it should be in the software that you should have available to say, this permit is not just automatically granted because there's no house, you'd have to check the sanitation. Just a suggestion.
Thank you, Karen.
Good evening, Carol Kuslow, East Bay Township. Thank you for all your discussion this evening. Want you to consider that this is National Drinking Water Week. Why does that matter? Because almost everything you talk about with ordinances, not everything, but most, somehow get back to water, groundwater, surface water. And so tonight, I want to thank you for holding to the ordinances with the state park and asking them, requiring them to return some of those trees that they took out. Personally, I would have wanted more. I look forward to you folks looking at their additional plans with landscaping to make sure as many plants as possible can be put back. Remember that it's not just trees that make a difference. Now, why do the plants make a difference with the water? You know, you've heard it before, that the roots of the plants absorb the nutrients and pollutions and hold them in place instead of letting them go down to our groundwater, which we drink from, or letting them go into the stream, in the case of the banks at the state park, and right into East Bay, where the municipal drinking water comes out of. Now, in regards to the temporary dwellings, one thing seems important for you folks to think about is, I don't think the dwelling has been defined sufficiently. I don't think anything has been said about how many people can be in that dwelling. That is just a dwelling, so one thing, but how many people? You know, a couple, a dozen? And then, especially in the lakes area, the septic systems range from very updated and within the law to, there's ones that are just the barrel in the ground with stones underneath. So again, that if they don't have the trailer that's holding all the human waste and gray water, then where is that going? If they're going into the cabin that's on the property, what's happening? Are you overloading the septic system? So I really hope that as you continue to define this, you consider how many people can be allowed in that one dwelling. Thank you for your work.
Thanks, Carol.
Good evening, Caitlin Flensky. Thank you for listening and considering our ideas, but some concerning notes I gathered from your discussion tonight. One, you said enforcement would be ideal but not an option right now. Why are we creating a rule where we're already saying it can't be enforced? Two, people are already breaking it, so let's allow it. Please don't codify bad behavior. And three, there were long conversations and a long process rewriting the ordinance. The outcome was to not allow them because it was contentious, but it was very involved. I do think a workshop is a great idea, as Larry said, because I'm not seeing a majority of residents wanting this added to the ordinance. Who is pushing this? I agree that a long-term event or occurrence necessitates it. That's absolutely okay. Beyond that, we're opening a can of worms that seems a majority of residents do not want, and it cannot be enforced. Since this is not getting passed before the start of summer, why don't we use this summer as a test to see if East Bay can enforce the current rule that's easier to understand and easier to validate? If they cannot enforce it, then there's no capacity to enforce a looser rule or something that's harder to track. And regarding enforcement of ordinances, I'd recommend looking into Birmingham, Michigan, in Metro Detroit. The city has shown there are consequences for your actions. The city sets a strong precedent, residents listen, and they respect the ordinance. Thank you.
Thanks, Caitlin. Okay, going,
I will, thank you.
jump on in.
Jeff, Dagger, East Bay Township again. Thank you all very much. A couple things. Environmentally sensitive areas, 50 feet from water, I think that's a great idea. But again, our property is in the lakes area. We're almost a third of a mile deep away from the water. So I don't want to be just one box or one fits all, because we're nowhere close to the water on the majority of our property. So that should be taken into consideration. I get it. We don't want waste going into any of our waters. 2 weeks vacation of what most people get in their jobs, 1 to 2 weeks. A 14-day visit might be more realistic if you want them to pull a permit and actually stay within it, because a 2 weeks vacation, this is their big summer vacation coming up northern Michigan. They've got 2 days a weekend off. They've got 14 days of travel, a couple more, days getting ready for work. So 14 might be smarter, but, 10 days is probably adequate. Most RVs accommodate 2 to 4 people. The majority of the East Bay Township residents I've spoke with, which are many of them, I didn't grab a petition or anything, we're all pro-camping, within reason. It's our property, we should be able to do some things, and like you say, people are doing it. All the townships do it, we should, or majority. One RV parcel, or one RV per parcel is probably a great idea to avoid the party atmosphere. I don't think you're going to see this ordinance be passed and a bunch of people go out and buy $100,000 RVs. It's just not going to happen. We're just going to make legal what should be legal. And all these RVs here, I don't see people ever dumping in anybody's sewer system. Like I said before, it just is not a good thing to do. Anybody with an RV knows that. We just don't do it. We have several sites in our area that do it, and all of the porta potty companies come right to your place and pump out an RV, both your gray and black water. And that's huge. That's what we want. Most of these lakes area homes, they've got horrible septics. Or not horrible, but dated septics, where a lot of them, like they were saying, that's a very valid point. If you've got a septic that might be weak, or on a rainy day you're not using it, or whatever. I mean, we hear all sorts of stories on the lakes, but just the same, those do need to be upgraded. But nobody in their right mind would use that to dump an RV in. I just don't see that as being a real issue. Everybody's thinking we need a waste. The RV, a normal one will go a week or two with sensitive usage, and that's how people use them. They're used to boondocking, they're used to doing that. If they don't have full hookups, and they can go to Timber Ridge, they can go to a lot of sites, Traverse City State Park when that's back open, and there's dump sites. They will unhook, go cruise around for the day, take their RV, come back, and they'll dump it along the way. We just don't see that. I'm a big RV guy, been doing it since the 80s. Back to the trees, I'm just curious, I love the idea of more trees at the state park. That's a lot of trees they took out. We plant about 1,000 trees a year ourselves, myself and another farmer and our family. Can we put seedlings in? I mean, because you throw seedlings in, they do really well compared to established trees. You don't have to babysit them and everything. They're very expensive, but seedlings be a great way for the park to fill some of those voids. Pick native species, the ones you want, but, they don't have to put in the huge trees for that. But, we've got a great town here. We've got great water quality. We work on improving that. I think as owners, everybody here, we're all stewards of our own land. We can dictate what we do, and I don't think we need a whole lot of permit process. The parks, when you go to the state park campground, if you're on state land, you just go down, the DNR issues you a paper, they have them, you can print them out online. Good for 14 days at that one site. Pick up your trash, take care of your waste, all that kind of stuff. Those are the spots where you mentioned. People are probably digging a hole and using it when they go. I mean, I'm not a big fan of those out there because of the waste and the trash. I've also worked with the DNR several years in the past because of my occupation, seen it all from the air. We would do state forest cleanups. We would fill dumpsters because people would just go out and dump their trash everywhere in the woods. I'd see it. We see couches and everything. Whenever we're in the woods, we haul junk out of our woods, especially around the waters, because we play around the waters. That's our stuff. But a lot of the stuff, I think, just having a simple permit is what the state does, the DNR. You post that right there at your campsite. They come in, they see when you're there from 1 and 2. They can document that. A big permit process, that's a lot of paperwork. I think there's probably better ways, and I think most of the neighbors are going to snitch on each other anyways. The lakes area, I don't know how suited that is for camping anyways, as well as a lot of wetland areas, just because topography, you need solid land to get it in there, and you sure don't want to be parking on a hill. And a lot of the lakes areas, we know we've got some pretty crazy driveways around here, so I just don't see this being a real big thing. I could probably go around, get hundreds of people to sign a petition pro-camping, I almost guarantee that. I haven't, and I'm not saying anything about people that have. That's great. I'm glad everyone has, but I just don't see an issue unless there's certain issues and people are already abusing it, then we know of it. Like the guy on, we're not going to talk about, but a lot of people have been, Thank you for your time. appreciate it. But I think we all need to be able to enjoy our rights on our property respectfully and cleanliness, clean. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Can I make one comment?
Absolutely.
Oh, I'm sorry, you go ahead first.
David Endicott again. I do want to thank you for embracing the suggestion that Caitlin had in terms of doing the permit, not just for long-term, but for the short-term as well. To me, it provides accountability, and that's what we're looking for. It also provides a discussion that can be based on fact, as opposed to a neighbor just saying, hey, I think this is what happened, and then it being a he said, she said, or he, or whatever type thing. So I look forward, I think we all look forward to what you're going to be revising, Claire. But like I said, to me, being able to provide a set of facts and provide accountability really would go a long way in terms of making this enforceable. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Going once, going twice. Okay. Claire's up.
I have I would be remiss if I didn't, I think, want to highlight my staff and Bill Vandercook, who's our zoning administrator. I think that the sentiment that we don't do enforcement is often thrown around, and I think that's wildly inaccurate. I appreciate the mention of Birmingham, and we are constantly talking with other communities and would be happy to reach out to other communities that are doing things well. But every day, Bill is out there, and he's enforcing our ordinance. He's solving problems on a daily basis. He's tree trimming, it's fences, it's chickens. And so there's a whole host of different issues that we, as a township, are actively solving problems and addressing. And so I would encourage residents to continue to, provide us with that information. We are also out there in the community, and we're seeing things, and we're keeping things running well. So while it's not a 100%, you're never going to have 100%. Do people speed? Yes, we've got police officers, but they're still speeding. So we're, continuing to work with the members of the community to gain compliance. And it's really not so much about writing tickets, it's about working with people, because what we want is compliance. We're not looking to, tickets are not that much money. They're not going to necessarily change the behavior, but really what changes the behavior is working with our community members and achieving compliance. So I just wanted to provide a little bit of context on that, because the enforcement piece is something that we're doing every single day. And I think sometimes comments are made that we don't enforce, and that's just inaccurate. So.
I just think this opens up a larger amount of enforcement.
No,
and he's a one human.
Absolutely. There's elements of every zoning ordinance. Some are easier to enforce, some are not. And so I think that's an important, and very important thing to consider as you're making policy decisions.
Mm-hmm.
We appreciate all the work he does. He is a busy guy, no question about it. Don't forget the fact that we have an upcoming May 27 agricultural meeting here, the day after Labor Day. As a future Memorial Day, thank you. Let me jump a whole season ahead. And we have our next Planning Commission meeting Tuesday, June 3rd, 2025.